What's up guys, Hotshotfrontier back at it again with another video, and in this video guys, we're going to be discussing the 5 best budget deck options for the format. So you can't always play the best top dollar deck, and that's okay because we have some of the best budget deck options to beat the meta. So I'm going to show you guys a very low budget version of a deck, explain the cards, show you a higher version, and we're going to kind of compare notes and see what the current price points are and what makes up that difference. Now, before we get started, I want to give a huge shout out to YGO Pro Deck. They have an amazing website where you can go ahead and build your own deck, and actually it will show you the prices of the individual cards for that deck. So before you go ahead and buy cards from like eBay or TGG Player, which is really nice to see. Now, let's go ahead and get into the first one, that is Labrynth. So I found a budget lab build for $162.69. Now, of course, prices are always fluctuating, but this is only a few days ago, so it's not too bad. So going into the main deck, this deck looks really nice for a Labrynth strategy. You have, of course, the main monsters here. You have the Lilith, which is nice, I haven't seen that in a while. 3 Ash. You have Extravagance, a cut-in for Prosperity. That's way too expensive. You have the Anti-Spell, which is nice against, anti-Labrynth players. You have Skill Drain. You have the Dark Sacrifice, Daruma Cannon, D-Bearer. You have, of course, the Punishments, the Epidemic Virus, Dragon's Prison. I haven't seen that in a long time. And, of course, you're playing the Welcome Labrynth. Now, on the side, he's playing Big Welcome Labrynth, which is the more expensive card. But, to each their own. And I also want to say, don't judge these lists too much. This is kind of just showing you guys that you can possibly make these decks really cheap. He might just be testing, which, of course, he did say he's still testing it out. But I think this is really solid for a budget version. I want to show you guys a more expensive version. And we have here, this is a $680 version of the deck. It got top 32 at YCS Cancun. So now you know why. But going into the main deck, it looks really nice. You're playing 3 copies of the Lord of the Heavenly Prison. You're still playing the Ashes. You're playing the Prosperities now here in this version. You're actually still playing the One Punishment, which is nice. The Big Welcome is in the main deck here. Infinite Impermanence, of course. Going into the extra deck, which is actually very expensive here. You're playing the Chimera. You have the Garura. You have 2 copies of Chaos Angel, which is crazy, but reasonable. Of course, Omega, Zeus, Access Go Talker. So a lot of just really pricey cards. You have cards like the Kurikara. You have the Bestial Monster. So I don't think he just got top 32 for no reason. This deck is actually pretty good. But let me know, of course, what you guys think. Moving on to the next deck, we have Marincess. So I found a deck for $133. Took this deck to a Team YCS and got top 16 with their team. That's absolutely amazing. Congrats to them. But going into the main deck, they play a nice assortment of Marincess monsters, of course. Then you have the Ice Jade Ran, which with the token it can make, you can go ahead and summon the Air Regime, which is a very good card against your opponent. They're playing 5 different types of hand traps in the deck, which is very nice for the strategy. You're playing the Wave, which is a good negate, and of course the Impermanences. So very nice strategy. And then the side deck, Raigekis, the Duster. You're playing Dark Ruler No More. You have Moon, Eclipse, and Gozen Match. For a budget deck, this deck is not bad at all. But let me go ahead and show you guys an expensive version of the deck. And for $368 for top 8 at the Bogota World Championship Qualifier, we have a really nice deck here. So of course they're playing less hand traps, but they're playing more cards like Thrust and Talents, which of course takes up a lot of the price. For Thrust is still like a $75 type of card. Going into the Gozen Matches are actually in the main deck for this one, and you're actually playing the number 4 Stealth Kraken in this version of the deck. And of course you're playing a lot of you have hand traps like Nibiru in the side deck, evenly matches, and you have the Anti-Spell Fragrances. So really go ahead and choose your version. You guys can always play the budget version and kind of just add in more powerful cards if you want into that version and still make it work. But as you see here, both versions did very well at the events that they participated in. Moving on, we have Salamangreat for going into the 3rd best budget deck that I think you guys should definitely think of getting. So Salamangreat has always been a really good deck. So for this version, it's $108, but there's no regional topping. There's no, best at locals or anything. This is just a testing version of the deck. But for $40, you play 2 Nibiru. You're playing the, of course, Peril Exceed, which is a very good card to have for this deck. You're playing Flame Buffalo, which is nice to see. You're playing a lot of the older cards that you probably haven't seen in a while, you know, compared to the newer version of Salamangreat. But Ash Blossom, of course, at 2. You're playing the Moonlit Chill at 2. You're playing Crossout Designator, which is nice because you can go ahead and declare something. I guess if you're going against the mirror match is nice, but also any Hair Trap used against you have in your deck, you can just say no to that, which is really good. Infinite Impermanence. And then the extra deck is really, I guess, standard for a Salamangreat deck. It's nice that even in the budget version, they're still playing Isis Kotaker. It's very good to, of course, link up to. Now, showing you a more expensive version, we have here for $552. I know. But reason being, you're playing, of course, the new support. You're playing the Salamangreat of Fire at 3, you know, which is nice. You're playing Infinite Impermanence at 3. You have the new Link monsters. You're playing Isis Kotaker. Pretty much that really makes up the price. I mean, then in the side deck, you're playing the Thrust, 2 Thrusts, because, you know, of course, you're playing 1 Thrust. If you're playing something at 3, you're playing it at 4, you know, 5, 6, vice versa. So cards like that are really what take up the price. But I think this version of the deck is a little more consistent because of course, you're playing cards like the Fire, the new support, which is really good from the strategy. I don't even think in the other version they're actually playing Signet Mining. They are playing 1 copy of Signet Mining, which this card is still relatively cheap, but I think you definitely should max out at 3 for that. But what do you guys think? Let me know, of course, down below. We're gonna go ahead and get into the 4th strategy, which is Dark World. So this deck is insanely cheap. You really just need 3 structure decks to make it work, but of course you can add extra cards in. So for this version, for $84, you can actually go ahead and a lot of cards from the structure deck, like I said, but you have the 1 card destruction, which you have, of course, in all versions. Playing the spell card searcher for the deck, even though it's slightly expensive, it's like $11 per copy. It's still worth it to have in either version, in my opinion. And the extra deck, pretty standard. I mean, you're playing the Coach King, which is an expensive common to have, but it's still so necessary in either Dark World build. And that's pretty much it. I mean, let's go ahead and go into the expensive version, which there are a lot more expensive versions, but I chose this one. It's about an almost $300 build. You're playing more dangers in this one. I don't believe the other one was actually playing the Upstart Goblin. We'll just check real quick. No, they weren't playing the one, but yeah, I mean, this deck is still really good. You're playing more expensive choices. You know, you're playing stuff like the number 90, which is a 40 plus card right now. They're playing a Zeus. Going into your Saryuja is really nice to have as well. It's really cheap. It's in the other version as well. But for the side deck, they're playing 3 Radiant. You have, of course, the Eclipses. You have 1 Talent, and of course, here we go. We're playing the Thrust at 1, $70+ card. You're playing the Duster, the Storm at 1. Interesting. Evenly Match at 2, and then Skill Drain at 3. So this deck is actually really good as well. It's probably much more consistent than the last one, and this is actually the winner of the Buenos Aires World Championship Qualifier Regional. So, I mean, here you go. You can see the results of that, but that's actually awesome to see for Dark World. Going on to the next one, we have our last one, and that is Floowandereeze, the best budget deck for this video. And for $35, okay, you can build a Floowandereeze deck. So let me explain why. Going into the main deck for Flu, you don't have anything that's actually really expensive. You can get the Epens, the super rares, for really cheap. The secret rares are the ones that are actually pretty expensive right now. The D-shifters are insanely cheap as common. Going into the spell cards here, Duality is not expensive spell card at all. You have Extravagance again. If you want to go ahead and play Prosperity, you can. You have Book of Moons here, Called by the Grave. The Advents were expensive, but the reprint made them cheap. They're like $1 or $2. The only thing that's actually really expensive in this is actually Evenly Matched in the main deck, but even having in the main deck is a nice tech card to have because the deck is good going first and second. And you're playing just targets for the, of course, Extravagance, and that's it. I mean, of course, you can add a side deck, and that might be a little more expensive. You can build this deck for insanely cheap. Absolutely crazy. Let's show you guys an expensive version, and for $516 I'm going to show you guys this Floowandereeze deck. So looking at this main deck, it's slightly more expensive than the budget version, of course, but you're playing the Prosperities, you have the Thrust, you have the Eclipses, and the Advents, which are really cheap. You have the Evenly Matched, which is nice to have in the main deck. You have Impermanence. Going into the extra deck, you have the Zeuses, which are the most expensive cards in the actual extra deck. You can run other cards in the extra deck like targets like the Yama, you know, for Unchained and stuff like that, just if you want to play like Ghost River Wind of Cherries and get rid of it, which is nice touch. Going into the side, really standard. I mean, you're playing D-Shifter in the side deck here. You're playing Duster, Anti-Spell Fragrance, Deep Barrier, the Storms. You're playing Trap Trick. So a very expensive version of the deck, but in my opinion, I still love this budget version. This is a very good version of the deck too. So just to show you guys, you know, a little comparison that you can still play Yu-Gi-Oh!, play a budget version and do very well. In my opinion, I think that Flu is actually the best budget deck we have out right now. But if you guys agree with my pick or don't agree with my picks, let me know down below in the comment section. And if you guys like this video, make sure to give it a huge like. Comment down below what was your favorite pick here or what would you have added to the list. And if you guys are not subscribed to the channel, what are you doing? Make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell so you're updated the moment I upload new videos. But guys, that's it for me. Hope you have a great rest of your day or night, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.